All right, candidates, we're going to begin with Mr. Fagan on the end. You now have 2 minutes, correct myself, 2 minutes to introduce yourself. Go ahead, sir.
Hey guys, I'm David Fagan. I'm running for Congress, obviously, for this district. I was born in Fort Worth, Texas. I grew up my whole life in Colleyville, so I love Colleyville, but I know the DFW really well. My father actually started Grapevine right down the street, and I went there my whole life. This is my community. I help serve in multiple nonprofits in this area, like the Gatehouse around the corner, which helps out battered women, and also I help with volunteering with the police, all the way to helping people learn English as a second language, since I speak Arabic and Spanish. And I went up to Texas Tech, and I got a degree up there, yeah. How about Mahomes? You know, see the game? That was awesome. And I got a degree up there, business management. I got a minor in Arabic. I used it to help people learn English as I helped minister to the Islamic community to try and convert them to Christianity. And also I learned Spanish while I was up there, which was very helpful. And I'm in property management, and that's one of my passions because it's like Monopoly. It's a lot of fun. But Spanish is very helpful, and Arabic is actually pretty helpful too, since we have a changing demographics in the DFW in District 24. So all those things are really beneficial. And all the leadership roles I've had in nonprofits to serving for all of Grapevine. It's a beautiful place. Our economy's booming, and our infrastructure is great. So I hope to serve y'all as a congressman, and I'm very looking forward to it. And I'm David Fagan. Here you go.
I'm Jeremy Leatherman, and let me just show you, everybody in this room, my socks. Huh? I went on each side. So anybody up here that says they're pro-Trump, well, we know who it is. I'm 2 times pro-Trump. So let me tell you who I am. I graduated in 1992 from Texas Christian University with a Bachelor of Science in Political Science. Go Frogs. All right. And since then, I've been an associated broker for 28 plus years. I have met thousands of people along this journey, not just the political journey, but I've sat across the table, but many, too many tables to count. And I have learned in my adult lifetime that the American dream is real. It's real for all the homes that I sold people who made it real after that. And it's real for all the people who are in this audience tonight and outside. It is about happiness for some. It is about contentment for others. And it is about fairness or justice for everyone else. It's also about pro-business, which is what the Grand Old Party is all about. I'm pro-business. I am for reduced federal regulations, reduced federal spending, and reduced federal taxes. And to the extent that I can get more money in your pocket, I think everybody here will be happy, yes? Yes. We're going to have to, good. Apparently not, the other half is not happy about getting more money in their pocket. Don't come talk to me after the event, okay? We'll figure that part out too. Anyway, you can locate me at jaredleverman.vote. That's www.jaredleverman.vote if you want more information about me. And you can also contact me on my cell phone. You can also contact me on email. I'll be glad to reply to every single person in this room, because I will fight for every single person in this room if given the opportunity to become your leader in a leadership role. Thank you very much.
I'm driving in today, me and my wife, and yesterday there was a little boy selling dogs in a box, free Democratic dogs in a box, and so we drove by. Today we were coming here, and here it was, free Republicans in dogs in a box. We stopped and asked him, yesterday they're Democrats, today they're Republicans. He goes, well, their eyes are wide open right now. So, I'm Desi Mays. I'm a family man, businessman, and also a military veteran who served in the military for 20 plus years as a Green Beret, Ranger, and commander. I After retirement, I went on to be an executive for Fortune 500 companies, and currently now I own businesses here in North Texas. I'm a strong conservative who believes in America First agenda, securing our border, pro-life. I'm 100% pro-life, and I want to make change for business. I want to make sure regulations are reduced. I also want to make sure that us in the district are thriving. I grew up in the back of a pickup truck in a camper on a construction site in Midland, Texas. I worked hard to get where I am today. I have a master's degree, 3.97 highest honors. I have 2 bachelor's degrees and an associate's degree. Coming from nothing. I worked hard. And when my father left me and my mother at 16, I went to work. I went to work as a dishwasher, waiter. I hung sheetrock in a house. I framed houses. I even worked in a mortuary home. Business was always good, and no one ever complained about it. So I come and I have lived the American dream. I don't have to do this. I have a good life. But I feel strongly that we need strong conservatives with conservative values to stand up. Things are going bad, and when things go bad, good people stand up. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Sunny Chaparala. I could do it without the mic, you would not know the difference. I was told. So is it working or? Yes. Okay. I'm Sunny. Okay, don't stop.
I just started.
Okay. One more time, I'm Sunny Chaparala, running for Congress in the 24th district along with all of them. And so I'm a legal immigrant. If I have to sum it up, the reason I am in, I would think that I'm in for 2 reasons. One is President Trump's Make America Great Again, or America First agenda, and which the part of all of his agenda that I like the most is the immigration thing. I am personally have gone through that. I've come here legally, I've stood in line, and it is very personal to me. And then the other thing is, this is a country I chose, and I love this country, I'm proud of this country, and when I hear AOC and Omar and the other crazies like throw our country under the bus and they say such mean things and bad stuff that is not true, it makes me very, very angry. I wish more legal immigrants have stood up and stand up and say that it is not true, and I think I would be the best person to tell them to shut up, and that's exactly what I'm trying. And back to immigration, and I hope I'm mistaken. I thought some of my friends have said that there should be a pathway to citizenship. I would be extremely upset if that were the case, because so is that fair for me and my family? We've never been together as a family. We don't remember family dinners, so I hope that's not true. Thank you so much.
Start my time.
Well, thank all of you guys for coming out. I'm Beth Van Dyne, and I am running for District 24 in the fabulous state of Texas. My background was, I grew up, my dad was in the Air Force, we moved all around. We came to Texas because we love this state. Been here in the district since 1986. When I was 17, I moved out of the house. I had the worst 3 years of the worst jobs ever. I went back to college and then paid my own way through college. It took me 10 years, but I paid my own way through college. So I hear that we're going to give it away, that makes me upset. I got on the city council because, quite honestly, my council member was not doing his job. So I got on the Irving City Council, I ran, I was outspent 8-1, I ran against an incumbent and won. I was on the city council for 6 years, then I became mayor of Irving for 6 years. And while I was mayor, I was tested. I showed that I had backbone, I showed that I had grace, and I showed that I was very conservative in my votes, in my fight against increased taxes, for our Constitution and for other things, as all of you in this room probably are very familiar with. While I was mayor, we had the lowest crime rate in our city's history. It's because we enforced the laws, and because we stood by our police officers and supported them. We had the highest economy and growth rate in our city's history. And we were one of the fastest growing cities in this state, in the country. I passed an ethics policy, which included term limits, and after 2 terms, I stepped down and I joined the Trump administration. For the last 2.5 years, I've worked under Secretary Carson at HUD, working with the administration, working with mayors across the country when I was on the U.S. Conference of Mayors Board, and working with Congress members across the country, which is why I've gotten the endorsements from a majority of Congress members within this district, as well as Susan B. Anthony, Texas Right to Life, Texas Homeschool Coalition, and others. I think that's important. But thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Let's move on now to the forum portion of our evening. Again, our panelists will be asking the questions. Each candidate will have the opportunity to answer every question. Your answers need to be 1 minute. Let's begin with Alzito.
Okay. Thank you again, everyone, for being here, especially the candidates and everyone else who's shown up on what's going to be a little bit cold night. So, first question. Please tell us how many years you have served in a government position or business position, as well as what makes you qualified to be elected to Congress. Starting with
David.
Awesome. So the great thing about me is I've never been in the government. I'm not a career politician. I'm just stepping up when time and need for our government. And what qualifies me to be a representative, I've worked with different businesses. I've helped connect deals. I've worked the balanced budget. I've worked to help the community through nonprofits. I didn't make $1 from that. And I just wanted to serve the community and serve it correctly. And the best thing about this position is that we can support our president, Donald Trump, when we go up there and fight for what's right. So I'm super excited about it, and I'm qualified because I know how to lead. I know how to serve the community. I know what y'all want because I've met with a lot of y'all. And I've worked with a lot of y'all, and I've served the community and met a lot of y'all through it. So thank you so much. Thank you.
So,
what color is it? Black? Black. Are you shooting with? Just grab another one.
Yeah, I want to take
Hello? This is mine.
Take red, take this.
hello? Much better, okay.
share that mic.
So the question about qualifications. First of all, I'm going to answer the question for all of us. We're all qualified. We're all constitutionally qualified, and we're all qualified because we're all successful. What makes me qualified specifically is the fact that I've been self-employed for 28 plus years. I've never had a handout from anybody. And if more people who are in public positions and in public office would have that attitude and come from that attitude, we might find ourselves debt-free as a nation instead of owing everybody in the world and then a few other worlds money. We're $23 trillion in debt. I'm debt-free. That's why I'm qualified to run this position, because it's a paradigm shift that is needed in public office, and a paradigm shift from the attitude of someone who does not incur debt unless they absolutely need it is what we need to take to Washington, and is what we need to spread throughout the rest of our country. Thank you.
The question was government and business, and I was with the government for 20 and a half years, but most importantly, I was responsible for lives. I managed budgets of multi-billion dollars in order to ensure our soldiers were trained, equipped, and ready to fight. And from a business perspective, I've managed businesses for the last 17 years. My own personal business is 2007, and working as executive for the rest of the time. I've also been a college professor, where I taught business classes and courses to our youths to try to get them up to speed. But most importantly, I come from one of us. As a business person, I know what it takes to get things done. And I'm dedicated to make sure this district and its people have a representative in Congress that is, one, the most important thing, conservative, and make sure his agenda that he's driving was within our conservative values. Thank you.
Same question.
Okay, yeah. I'm going to make it easy for everyone. If any one of you here believes that one needs to have governmental experience, you are not qualified, I'm not the person for you. Let's just be honest. I'm not. I've never had any governmental position as far as I remember, except block walking, which, yeah, it's not really. If you want more of the same thing, more and more of the same thing, I'm not the person for you. I'm completely an outsider, whether it may be good, it may be bad, but I'm just an outsider. Somebody who's been minding my own business, doing my own thing, and I started a job and came up to a place where I have 2 small businesses, and I am a successful business owner in my own way. So I'm results oriented and have a lot of drive, so I believe that's why I'm qualified. Thank you.
I've been an elected official for 12 years, and if being an elected official disqualifies you as a career politician, I got paid $600 a month. I don't know if that counts or not. But I'll tell you, it's not a career that I would choose if you want to get maybe paid a rent. At the same time, so I've got 12 years of elected experience. I've got 2.5 years as a Trump appointee, but I've got almost 30 years of private sector experience as well, because you can't make $600 a month and still pay your rent. I've been on the boards of the U.S. Conference of Mayors. I've been on the board of a number of different organizations, including Brighter Tomorrows, which is a domestic violence shelter. I think it's good to have those relationships. I think it's very important that you know how the county works, what the city government does, what you can do at the state level and what you can do at the federal level. I have won 5 races. I've run for office 5 times, and I've won 5 times. 3 times was against an incumbent where I was outspent between 6 and 8 to 1. You need somebody in this race who can actually win. I have proven that I've got that ability, and I really appreciate your support.
Laura Oakley, question?
Oh, I'm not answering, I'm not.
You're not, okay. Julie, go ahead.
Yeah, my turn. Okay. Last summer, 140 House Republicans joined with the Democrats to pass H.R. 1044 regarding visas. Big tech companies and the U.S. Chamber of Commerce lobbied hard to get it passed, claiming businesses should have access to an unlimited pool of foreign labor. Opponents claimed the bill will reward employers who replace hundreds of thousands of American workers with cheaper foreign workers. If you are in Congress, would you have voted for or against H.R. 1044, and why?
Good question. Oh, number 2. Yeah, we'll start with number 2.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll
Yes.
go down the line.
Mr. Lieberman.
What might be the question?
We're just keeping the same one.
The green one.
Yes.
We'll keep that one, that works.
I can't see it. Go ahead.
Go.
So without knowing the exact specifics of the entire bill, I'll say it like this. Americans need the job first. We should have a situation where to the extent that the first people in line are the Americans, the second people in line are current citizens, the third person in line is also an American citizen, and then we do another call out for American citizens, and if we can't get anybody from the American soil to work, then and only then do we start seeking people from outside. And that's my short answer. The second question is, would I have voted for it or against it? It is important that we have people in our labor force. If we can't fill the position with people who want to work from within the borders, then we're going to have to look for people who are outside of the borders. So from that perspective, I reluctantly say I probably would have voted for it, but only after we have spent the entire time trying to find Americans first.
Well, first of all, I would have voted against it. And did you all know this $1.48 trillion spending bill that we just passed a few weeks ago is more than doubles the H-2AB visas. So it's still going on today. I've had some experience with that. Working at Dow Computers, working at Brinks, I've seen the process. Let's put in for application for 3 or 4, that way we can make sure we can resupply when we need it. You know, that is totally wrong. I've always been against that. We need to seek out, and if we don't have the right Americans that we claim we do in specific positions, we need to make sure we have specific training programs for that, or go research and reach out of state to grab them first. Because our priority is putting Americans to work. That's the #1 thing. I own a business. I can tell you this, when I have people come to me and I ask them for Social Security cards or ID cards, etc., and they say, huh? Why not? It's work. That's not it. The problem is we have to focus on American jobs. We got to make sure Americans are back to work. The legal, I was just on a roll.
Julie, will you be mad at me if I ask you to repeat the question one more time?
I'd be happy to.
Thank you.
Okay, last summer, 140 Republicans joined with the Democrats to pass the bill. Big tech companies and the U.S. Chamber of Commerce lobbied hard to get it passed, claiming businesses should have access to an unlimited pool of foreign labor. Opponents claimed the bill will reward employers and replace hundreds of thousands of American workers with cheaper foreign workers. Would you have voted for or against it, and why?
Okay, so unlimited is the keyword, I guess. Or that's what I'm getting. So from what I understand, what Jaron said, usually if we are granting visas, it's already there. You can't just like grant a visa. Whenever an employer posts an advertisement, you have to show to the government that we do not have a person. I think there are 2 or 3 times where you have to advertise. Only when you do not get it, you have to show this proof to the American government, and only then can you grant a visa, or a visa would be granted. So I'm not sure how different this bill is, and without knowing the entirety of the bill, just based on what was said, unlimited supply, no! We have plenty of people here that can handle jobs and who speak English. So, even though I don't speak as good of English as you do. So yeah, I think unlimited supply, no, again, because that is in the case of if we do not find anyone. But I believe in supply and demand, and the Austrian School of Economics, and I think we would always find somebody. Thank you.
As it was written, I would have voted against it because there wasn't enough restrictions on it. However, I do think when we start thinking about the number of visas that we're going to offer and immigration in general, or allow people in, that having specific restrictions that can you make a job, can you make a living if you come here? What are you going to be able to add to our economy is important questions. So the fact that it did not have as many restrictions, I would have felt comfortable. But the fact that it did say, you have to have a skill to be able to come here, you have to have basically a job to be able to come here. I think those are positive things for the economy that we should look at. But I would put that in frame with the number of folks that we're letting in on immigration issues.
So with that bill, it's very divisive. They did come together, which is great, seeing Republicans and Democrats finally working together on something. But we have a real problem in the U.S. There are literally homeless veterans on the street, and we're doing nothing to do it, to get them in the workforce. And a lot of it has to do with simple training, little simple arts and stuff like that, to help them get back into the workforce so that they can work. So I would probably be opposed to it. The details of it is very kind of like weary because they did edit the bill a lot and they've been talking about it for a while. But I would vote no, and we need to use American labor force because there are a lot of people who want jobs. Even now, Trump's doing a great job with our economy. There's still unemployment, and we need to utilize them.
Mr. Gebhardt.
Thank you. My question is, what is your position on red flag laws, and what circumstances, if any, would allow the government to remove the right to own and bear firearms?
Good question.
Yeah, that is a great question. Well, so I support our Second Amendment rights 100%. It shall not be infringed. From an aspect of red flag laws, not on my watch. Red flag laws to me represent me committing a crime, me identifying that I'm going to commit a crime before I've committed it. It's almost like, has everybody seen the Minority Report? Same thing. We can't get into that type of environment to where we're saying someone's guilty before they are. So, I know I'm going on a tangent, but to answer your question, to me, no red flag laws, and I 100% support our Second Amendment rights to where it shall not be infringed.
Okay, so I am, just like most of us here, pro-guns, and it was a hard decision for me, or hard opinion for me to come to, because I was raised in India where there were no guns. I've never seen guns until I came to the United States 18 years ago. As I understood the Constitution, as I was studying and started appreciating the Constitution, what I realized that they put it in the Constitution that this is a right, this is a God-given right. So any time when government comes in between a right that is God-given, there is no possible outcome that could be good. So having said that, there's no red flag laws, no laws, nothing, because these God-given rights are non-negotiable. These are not something where we can compromise on, because once they attack rights on guns, it is about, do you have the freedom to safeguard yourself or not? Do you have the freedom to protect yourself or not? That's what it boils down to. More than guns, that's what it comes down to. And all of our rights in the Constitution are non-negotiable, and so there, I'm not going to be compromising on that. Thank you.
So the question was about red flag laws. No, I'm not supportive of red flag laws at all. I think they can be misused, and I think it's basically taking away people's due process. Yeah.
I think it's, yeah, still on.
There we go. I think it takes away people's due process. Now, do I think that there are ways to be able to, or do I think there's reasons that people should be allowed to, or the government should be allowed? I don't think people who commit violent crimes should have guns. I think we need to focus on criminals and not on law-abiding individuals.
Amen.
And I think that's where we have lost the message over the years, that we're concentrating on telling legal law-abiding folks what they need to do to keep guns out of the hands of those, but not out of criminals. I think there's a lot of things that we can do, for example, on the court systems, getting rid of the social justice warriors that take people who have committed violent felonies and continue to plead down to misdemeanors. I think we need to be able to enforce our laws, and basically, if you've committed a violent felony, you should not be owning a gun.
So the red flag law, it'd be a huge issue for me because I own guns. And I actually have an older brother, and I hate to admit it, but he's a Democrat. And I know that once the red flag law would get passed, I would get my gun taken away immediately. And that's not good. And the red flag law was really made by rhinos. Like, y'all know Dan Crenshaw, Bill, I think he's gung-ho and everything. He's the one who backed this bill. He was one of the leaders in the Republican Party trying to push that forward. I think one of them got endorsed by him. But it really shows character, rhinos and all that kind of stuff. It's not a good bill. And if it ever got passed, we would have a lot of our liberties taken away. It's literally our Second Amendment. And people want to infringe on that. I think that's horrific. So thank you so much.
I'm against the red flag laws. So that's the direct answer. But the issue is much deeper than that. I am pro-Second Amendment. The Supreme Court in the Heller decision said that the right to bear arms is an individual right. And 2 years later, the Supreme Court extended that right to the entire country. Yet we still have municipalities as you go throughout this country in different states that want to harass you. So Congress passed the Firearms Organization Protection Act to give you the right to transport your weapons. But yet they still harass us. So maybe we need to revisit some of these laws. Maybe we need to get rid of these laws, and maybe we need to have national right to carry. You know, I have a right to carry a weapon in this state because I have a license to carry in this state. And that right ought to extend when I pass the border, and it ought to extend in all of our waterways, all of our properties that we own across the world that are U.S. properties, and in every single state.
Next question?
Yes, Ms. Jennifer.
Okay, so I think you are all pretty awesome people, and I hope that the ones of you who don't get this congressional seat, please consider running for another position, because we always need fresh blood and new ideas. And that leads me to my question. It's regarding term limits. So, you know, a lot of these congressmen get into their position and they're there for decades. And I think the American people would really like to see term limits in there. So my question is, are you in favor of term limits? And if so, do you have any ideas for getting Congress to pass them? Thank you.
Yeah, I think most of us are on board with term limits. I think everyone agrees, especially after seeing the House and all those people there who come and talk every day on the Democratic side. I sometimes wonder if they're kind of like lost it, and maybe that's why they speak that way. I know probably it's not the right thing to say, but I really wonder that. So yeah, I have the mini term limits. So I'm so much in support of term limits, and because I love our Constitution and our founders and what their original intent was. I think the intent was always supposed to be like, this needs to be a revolving door where people, regular plumbers, electricians, builders, doctors, whoever, like everyone needs to go in and come out. And I believe in it so much, I signed the term limits pledge, and I hope all the rest of the candidates would sign the same.
Thank you. So when I became mayor, I actually championed an ethics policy that included term limits. And even before I became mayor, I had 2 terms on the Irving City Council. I didn't lose my race. I could have won again. I could have run again. I didn't. I chose, after two full terms, to step down. I was mayor, and after 2 full terms, I stepped down. So I have not only just written a policy about it that started in Irving for the first time, but I've actually lived it. And I think what you need to do is hold your elected officials accountable. That once they've been there for a very long time, it's time to go. We've got 6 of our Republican congressmembers who are stepping down and not running for re-election. It's not a reflection of them giving up the Republican Party. I think we need to look at it as it's a positive, because you're going to get new energy, you're going to get other candidates in there who are going to bring that spice of life. So instead of looking at the 6 candidates as a bad thing, we need to look at it as a positive thing. But I've lived term limits and I've supported them.
So if you'll notice in a lot of local governments now, they're passing term limits, which is great. In Colleyville, they just did it. Our mayor turned himself out, which was great. Irving, like she was saying, did it, and it's great because getting people to go to a local election is like pulling out team, because only 1% of DFW actually votes in local elections. So that's great, because you have to tell them we need term limits. And we need to apply that same pressure in Congress, because we need to tell our congressmen once they get elected, they're not going to pass term limits, we're not going to vote for you. Because it's getting to a point where they become an incumbent and they just get reelected. And that's why I call Congress a political retirement, because people get really lax up there. They get free health care. We don't all get free health care. They get tons of money. We don't get free tons of money. And they just sit back and get to call themselves a congressman and congresswoman. So that's why it's important to elect someone who's not a career politician. Elect someone who really wants to get the job done.
Yes, I am for term limits. I am for term limits 12 years at the federal level, 12 years at the state level, and I am also for term limits at the bureaucracy level.
Yes.
That is where the real change takes place, because it's those claws of influence that refuse to change. So I'm for all 3, and how would I do it? I would do it with an Article 5 Convention of States. And I would even go further than that. I would make sure that there is no expiration date on that legislation that goes before the states, so it does not become a cop-out by the number of states that need to sign saying, oh, we ran out the clock, therefore we don't have term limits. Look, I did that with 30 seconds left. Look, I get out of here early. That's my answer. I'm for all the term limits. Term them all.
Well, I have signed a term limits pledge. She scared me. Someone let me clap. No, you know, Everybody always says, are you for term limits? Is Congress going to pass the term limits? I can tell you this, people. Nothing's going to change in Congress until we get career politicians out of there. Until we start with one person, two person, three people that are ethically strong. I've lived my life with high ethics and morals. I wouldn't be where I'm at if I didn't. It takes one to get in there and start the trend. That's what we need to start focusing on. All of us here, we're all great Republicans, we're all ethically strong. We start holding our career politicians accountable, and we do research on what they do and what they say. That's the way we change our politics. Thank you.
Can I add something real quick?
No.
Okay.
Sorry.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Are we still on term limits or again?
No, we're done.
If elected, what would be your top 3 priorities for your first 100 days in office?
Oh, God, my first 100 days in office? I would concentrate on healthcare. And actually, I think the Republicans, we had Republican bills before, but they all seemed to be focused on ego and getting their name on the bill as opposed to actually coming up with real solutions. I would focus on getting a transportation bill that we can all agree on, and I would also focus on border security because I think that's probably the number one issue that this country faces.
So the beautiful thing about my first 100 days, I will be walking into Congress with bills already that I'm trying to propose. One of the best things about real estate, it's about connections, knowing people, getting things done, because buildings don't sell themselves, houses don't sell themselves. If you have a building and want it sold, you got to meet with people. And so I'm going to walk into Congress. We're already writing bills right now with our campaign. So when we walk into Congress, we'll have things done so that we can just connect with the people and try and get it passed. Pro-life agenda is one of my top priorities. And finally, with guns, we need to start taking away a lot of the regulations and stuff, especially the Hughes Amendment. It allows for people not to have guns, really. It prices everyone out of it. It takes a couple of corporations to produce them, and everyone else can't really have them. So there's a lot of different things, but I have 5 of them.
Wait,
So my 3 topics are healthcare, infrastructure, and border control. You solve the border control, then that will help out with the healthcare, by the way, because we're giving away too much free care to people who they shouldn't be getting it. They're not from our country. They should bring in their own money and pay for their own health care, because God knows I'm tired of paying for it. Not everybody's clapping. Who do I need to do? So, the infrastructure, as a real estate broker for 28 years, I know all too well what a poor infrastructure will do to the value of your property. It will do to the value of your communities and what it will do to the value of your states. So, whether it be transportation, whether it be the federal highway system, whether it be more local or grant systems to local municipalities, you improve the infrastructure, you will improve the values of people's assets, you will improve the values of people's lives. So that's going to be one of my topics right there.
First 100 days, I think, sorry, try to go fast, but the first 100 days for me, number 1, is introduce legislation to close the loopholes in our immigration process. That's the very first thing I'm going to do. I'm Hispanic. It's not a racial issue. It's a national security issue. Okay? The number 2 thing is health care. We voted on 70 times to repeal and replace Obamacare. We did have a plan. So the first 100 days, I'm going to put a team together just so I can understand, we can have a plan to where we can submit legislation to repeal and replace Obamacare. Okay? Yes. Secondly, infrastructure. We're growing greatly in North Texas. But there's a lot of loopholes that come with federal grants. We have to clear up the bureaucracy for local state governments to be able to use their funds and not be tied down to the bureaucracy of Washington, D.C.
I believe that every new new bill or law is an infringement on liberty. So I would hope none. With that, unless it is like with every new law, it would be a repealing of an old law. Having said that, the only things that if I have to, I would be supporting is President Trump's agenda, which is illegal immigration, which is on the topmost. But generally speaking, I would like our government to be smaller as much as I can. Thank you.
Questions? Yep.
Wow, you guys flew through those. Okay,
They're doing fantastic.
they are. I'm looking at the clock and I'm like, I hope we have enough questions. So if y'all have some, you are welcome to bring them to the table. So write them down, bring them to the table. We are all, any Republican candidate is going to claim to be pro-life, including Kay Granger, if y'all have seen that debacle. But anyway, so we wish to stop the taxpayer funding of Planned Parenthood. Politicians seem to be in favor of defunding after they vote for the bills that fund it. Would you refuse to vote for any bill that provided appropriations to Planned Parenthood in either the bill or the amendments? And then here's the catch. For example, what if they added it to the farm bill, which no politician would ever vote against?
Well, with most bills, they add stuff like that in the end, just so you sign like a gun bill and then they raise taxes or something. But pro-life is very, very close to my heart because I have an identical twin. And when I was growing up, when I was in my mother's womb, we had a complication. I wasn't getting food, and I could have complicated pregnancy. Could have gone to a totally different realm where I could have even been aborted to save my mom's life and my brother's life. And they did the right thing. They went in front of the church, and the deacons came and they prayed on my mom. And the next day, I was saved. Obviously, I'm here, but it's very close to my heart, and it really sickens me. And the day that it finally just came into my mind, where I am paying for abortions. We're all paying for abortions. We're all paying for murder. And people just overlook it. It's just a topic the Republican Party talks about. And I think that is just horrific. There was absolutely no way I would ever vote on anything in the whole entire world that would allow abortion to go further. Thank you all so much.
The infamous hijacked legislation. That's what you're really asking about, right? How do you vote on hijacked legislation? Well, all I can tell you is I can give you some insight as to who I am, and then when the hijacked legislation comes up, I'll just have to take it and measure each side and which one weighs out. But who am I? I actually favor life because I have lost life. I am an identical twin, and I actually have lost a brother. So I know what it's like to lose someone whose soul is fabrically pulled away from you. I know the 10 years of deepness that I had to go through to get out of that hole. I also lost another brother who was lost to a gunshot. So again, I have had the hindsight and the insight to understand what life versus death is all about. When it comes to the hijacked legislation, if it's single issue legislation, I will vote for the life side. If it's hijacked legislation, it's a hypothetical question. I'll have to wait and see what I'm weighing it against. Thank you.
I am 100% pro-life, and the exception is I am 100% pro-life, period. It takes courage, right, for people to stand up and vote no for things. If anything comes across my desk or comes up in legislation that has anything to do with supporting funding for pro-life, it's a no for me. And you got to take courage. I'm an outsider. I'm not a politician. I'm not going to fall into that, hey, play along to get along. Because usually when you play along to get along in D.C., what's a win-win for them is a lose-lose for us, especially in the values that we hold. You know, my values are so strong in the Republican Party. That's what I'm doing up here. I believe I am the only true, strongest value conservative in this room. All right? And I'm going to keep going, but thank you.
Okay, so if it's along with the farmer bill, and I don't know that it was called as hijack, what's the thing?
Hijack legislation.
Hijack legislation. If that is the case, and if everyone is going to vote for farmland, then I would let all of them vote for that farmland thing and let that blood be on their hands, not on mine. So I would be no.
I think Planned Parenthood has basically lied to a lot of Americans and to Congress by saying that they provide women's health care. And the fact is that they don't provide women's health care, they provide abortions. And the $500 million that they get out of federal dollars is used on things like paying for campaign costs for Democrats on first-class tickets and on marketing for abortions. So no, I would not vote for any bill that included support for Planned Parenthood or for abortions. I've been endorsed by Susan B. Anthony, I've been endorsed by the Texas Right to Life because of those questions that I've already answered. Soon after, actually a couple of years after I'd been married and we bought our first house, I actually had a miscarriage. And I think for anybody who's actually felt the loss of a child personally, to think that they could use that as birth control is out of their minds. And when we sit here and we condemn our young girls who find themselves in positions where if we supported them with options like adoption, they would not have those emotional traumas later in life. And that's what we need to be focused on.
Yes.
A very alarming number of young people coming out of our high schools, colleges, and universities seem to think socialism and even communism is a good idea. Should we be alarmed about that? And what can we do to remedy this growing attitude that this type of governmental structure is okay?
I guess I'll go first. You know, collectively, our country already accepts some level of socialism. We have the Social Security system. We have the Medicare system. Those are safety nets for our elderly. So to some extent, we already have it in our system. So capitalism, how do you teach capitalism? Well, first thing you do is you don't give them all the freebies in life. You let them go out and experience it for themselves. So I guess I'm not on the right side of your question, but it is what it is. We have socialism because we have Social Security and Medicare. And we also have Social Security for people who are less than 18 years of age when they've lost their parents. So that's a tough question, and I'm not sure that I'm the person to answer that question, and that's too bad, but that is my answer.
Just real quick, Social Security and Medicare, and we pay into that, so they owe it to us. So it's really not socialism. We deserve that when we're older. Okay, so the second thing is it all starts with the family. I grew up with a mother that really laid into me. Every time I did something wrong, I'd get a shoe from across the room and hit me in the head. Made me work for a living, and made me understand the true value that comes with success if you work hard. So it all starts with us as parents. It all starts with us as individuals spreading that word to our youth. We can't just stand back anymore and just let our teachers take over. We control the school districts. We have to step up and get involved in that. So we have to blame ourselves for not teaching our children right. Okay?
Yes, I am very concerned about socialism and communism and how kids speak about it. And the reason I think it's a concerning thing is when we were immigrating and we were filling out our application, there was a question about communism. If you ever went to a communist rally or something like that, and I was trying to say, well, there's somebody I know, Daddy, should I put yes? My dad wrote my application and said, don't you ever say the word communism in America. And he made me promise, swear. So I come here after 10 years and there's everyone's talking about communism. So I don't think kids realize that. And I come from India, which is not even like a pure socialist country, but I'm 10 years and I'm still waiting to close out an estate. And anyone who wants socialism, I would say come to India with me and let's go try. And if you like the DMV, here you would love socialism. I swear, because I love the DMV. I think it's awesome. I really do. I love going to the DMV.
problem without a doubt. I mean, we act as if it's, think about it, when Clinton ran and you heard his speeches, he would be considered like Tea Party today, right?
Yes.
I mean, think about it, the Democratic Party would have shunned him. Yes, the beauty of having a Ronald Reagan in office was he moved people to the right. And now what we've seen is the left is so far left, it is unrecognizable. How do I think we can combat that? Talk about the economy. Talk about individual freedoms. Talk about liberties. Talk about border security. Talk about, give examples of what happens when you don't have things like capitalism, when you don't have things like democracy, when you don't have a republic. I think the more that we talk about the benefits that we've seen over the last 3 years, the more people are going to be against the discussions that we're talking about with socialism. It is simply not sustainable. Start putting price tags to it. Start putting consequences to it.
So I know you're all thinking, I get this question all the time, Democrats, socialists, like all those crazy people. That's the beautiful thing about me. I can appeal to my age group because a lot of them are turning to be a socialistic Democrat, which is, they don't even really understand what that means. But it's a changing tide. They're voting for Bernie Sanders, which I never thought that would ever happen in my whole entire life because he's a nutcase. And we're having a changing demographic throughout our whole entire country. The Republican Party is taking the biggest effect from it because they have like regular Democrats who are just kind of bad, and then they have socialistic Democrats who are like horrific. And the beautiful thing about me is I can appeal to them, I can talk sense to them, because the Republican Party has been talking to them forever. And a lot of them just don't want to listen because it's the same person, some elected official who's trying to better their career. But I speak Arabic, I speak Spanish, other two changing demographics who are coming into this country. I can appeal to all of them. I can save our party. And I know I can win the general election because I can appeal to people that the Republican Party cannot appeal to. Appeal, not appeal.
Natalie?
Okay, so federal spending is out of control and debt is not a position of strength. We need someone who will go to Washington and fight to rein in spending. Would you be that lawyer for us, and how? And also, can you give us an example of a moment in your life where you took a barrage of criticism and didn't back down?
I'm doing that right now. And these are audience questions, thank you.
Okay, so the first one, well, one of my first things in Congress is to pass legislation to balance the budget, and so we can reduce our deficit. And from a business perspective, if you look at the government, I've been in the government for 20 years. If you look at the government, every year come fiscal year in the government is actually September 31st, October 1st, when it starts again. Even if you haven't spent money that you have, everybody rushes to just buy everything before the end of the year. Why can't we start thinking of taking that money and putting it somewhere else? But from a business perspective, we got to stop looking at the government making a lean, mean, fine machine. I taught optimization. I consult Fortune 500 companies on process improvement and how to optimize their organizations. We have to look at the government and not necessarily change it into business, but take their best practices and start reducing costs. We have cross-functional jobs doing the same thing across the government. We can save a lot of costs in that aspect.
Everyone agrees that we have a spending problem, not a revenue problem. A little off topic, but I wish history was taught, because people like us who come here, we always hear that Americans are not into saving. Americans don't save. Okay, when I say Americans, you get the drift. I'm an American too, but but when I was like studying recently, actually 6 months ago, when I found out that frugality is an American value, I was shocked. I really was, because I'm going really, and then I went back and looked at all the founders who talked so much about frugality. Abraham Lincoln's letter, when somebody asked him for help and for a loan. So somewhere along the line, we went the wrong way. And if we went the wrong way, I think we can come back. It all started only in the 20th century. And most of you probably know what I'm talking about. So I'm very hopeful as far as did I face backlash? In my own way every day, yeah. So Not in any major level like Beth did, but in my own way, people get mad at everything I do every single day, including me being here.
So I think the best way out of debt is to have a strong and thriving economy. I've actually passed 12 different budgets that were balanced as required by law in cities, but we somehow don't feel that's the need in Congress. I think we need to get a balanced budget, but a balanced budget does not mean spending everything that you bring in. When you've got economic growth, you take that delta and you actually pay off your debt. So that's my answer on that. Have I been in front of the fire? Yes. You know, I took an oath when I became a public official. I took an oath that I would defend the Constitution and the state laws of Texas. I did that when we had a court that came into my city and they advertised that they were judges and attorneys, and they weren't. I brought up, I didn't do anything heroic. I did what I said I was going to do. And I think we need to hold all politicians, all elected officials to that line. When our police officers did their job and they actually questioned a kid who brought what looked like a bomb to school, yes, I got death threats. Yes, I had people from activists from outside the country who came and told me I shouldn't do that, but I did what I thought was right for my community, my state, and my country, and I would do it again.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry. Yeah, no, we're sorry. So yes, a balanced budget is number one. I mean, all of us, we have to have a balanced budget. We're all carrying $100,000 of debt, typically on average, from our national debt. Imagine if we all had to pay that, that would be crazy. And I think that it's appalling that Congress, pretty much the money bag of the government, cannot pass a budget that works. And we're spending. One day we used to have it where we didn't have any debt. But then we started making the economy better, bringing in more revenue, saving up more money, and then all these social programs started popping up. And how are we going to fix everyone's problem when it doesn't even go along with the Constitution? It's crazy. But of course I've been under attack. I'm a young guy. I am really upsetting incumbents. I'm upsetting every political person ever because I'm jumping into this race and we're having momentum. And it's beautiful, fresh minds coming in, changing the system. I've been yelled at, cussed at by Republicans, even though I'm the strongest Republican ever. And everywhere I turn, people want to hit me down, but I'm here to stay, and we're going to win this race. And then in November, we're going to win that even better. Thank you so much.
National debt, the two questions were debt, and then have you done something that somebody told you not to do and you did it anyway? Is that the two questions? All right, so on the debt, the way you fix debt is you don't get in debt, but that's too easy. We have a problem. It's called we are addicted to debt in the United States. You get rid of the freebies. You know, the penny plans exist. There are many other plans too, but you cut across the board by 1%. You don't have to be 1% equal across the board, but it could be 1.5%, 1% here, 0.5% somewhere else. That's one way to do it. On the second part, because I got 30 seconds, I was told, do not go sailing. Sail a sailboat. I've never sailed. I don't know a sailboat. I said, you know what? I want to learn how to sail a sailboat. So I'm going to go to the British Virgin Islands and I'm going to sail a boat. And I got on a boat and I went solo. I went from Scrub Island to Cooper Island and back. And instead of ending up like Gilligan's Island, I ended up back here on the stage. So there you go. Well, that's my answer anyway.
We know who Miss Congeniality is.
All right, Al.
Sorry. Am I next?
Yes. You are next, Al.
Wow. This is a little bit long, and it's from the audience. This question concerns border security and immigration reform. As a Texas taxpayer and parent, not myself, but the audience member, and parent of a border patrol agent serving on the Tex-Mex border, this is a highly important issue for me. For example, in the first quarter of 2020, despite the dramatic drop in overall southern border illegal family crossings due to the Trump administration's Remain in Mexico agreement, the Del Rio sector alone apprehended illegals from 41 countries, including 30 from China, compared to 6 total Chinese aliens caught in all of fiscal 2019. The cartels continue to send groups every day, 10 to 12 adult males per group, equipped with cartel-furnished camouflage, escorted in some cases by armed cartel guides. This has led to more aggressive behavior by the crossers, including 2 incidents so far this year where the Border Patrol agents were attacked and had to fire their weapons. Simply put, this problem isn't going to go away. In Texas, we have seen GOP congressmen take stances ranging from Will Hurd's literally liberal legislation approach to Chip Roy's staunch support of barrier construction and law enforcement. The question that the audience member has, my question for all of you, where do you stand on this issue? Are you a Will or are you a Chip?
Okay, is that a story or a question? No! It's like a GRE. I'm so sorry, did you like ask the question?
This is from the audience.
No, not the whole thing, but...
Okay, in Texas, we have, do you support?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
There's the liberal approach, legislation approach that Will Hurd has backed, and there's the staunch support of barrier construction and law enforcement that Chip Roy has been going down that road. The question is, where do you stand on this issue? Are you a Will or a Chip? Do you stand for staunch support of the barrier construction and law enforcement or liberal legislation?
That
In regards to the border.
big of a question, obviously not liberal. Okay.
I don't think any of us on this stage is going to say that we're for a liberal approach to it at all. I think, yes, I'm definitely on the Chip side that we need to have border security. All of us have said that. When I was on the city council and when I was mayor, I pushed forward for CAP 24/7 program in Irving, which is a criminal alien program, which is the exact opposite of the sanctuary city, which meant that we supported our police officers to work hand in glove with ICE agents. I've been down in Laredo, I've been down to Bronxville, I've been to McAllen, I've spoke with these agents, I've asked what they need. And instead of having sanctuary city policies, we need to make sure that we're enforcing our laws. At one point in time, the city of Irving, our police officers were working in their job, doing their regular jobs. If they stopped criminals from being crime in the street and they could not prove that they were here legally in this country, we detained them, we had ICE investigate them. If they were found to be here illegally, they were deported. At one point in time, we had more deportations in the city of Irving per capita than any other city in the country. Now, activists came in, they called us racist, hateful bigots, but the reaction to that, the actual reaction to that, was we had the lowest crime rate in our city's history that lasted for 9 years, and we became the 5th safest city in the country.
So we have a big problem, really big problem. Immigration is one of our key platforms, and you go door to door to door, everyone's saying immigration and healthcare. And we will always talk about immigration because it's an issue we've been talking about for over 100 years. This has been a huge issue because immigration does not just bring in people who leech off our system, take our jobs, all those different kind of things. They bring drugs, they bring in human trafficking, they bring in so many different aspects of illegal things to do, and that's why we need to build a wall. I was actually talking with a border agent, I think about 3 months ago, and I was talking to him about the wall, and he told me the wall works. And it's going to, and we need to build a wall all around. But we also need to invest in technology to ensure that ICE agents can find out where new holes are coming in, and we even need like local governments to be working with ICE, police, because if we're not going to fix this problem, it's just going to get worse and worse and worse. So that's the whole thing.
The questioners need to have a time limit on their time.
I have
Okay.
a question thing for us, but I wanted to read it exactly as the audience put it, but thank you for your patience.
I am in favor of border control by way of land, air, and sea. I am also in favor of border control, whether it be person or technology. However it gets done, it needs to get done. We need to close our border down and control what comes into this country, period.
There you go.
I'm with Chip. One of my first priorities is to introduce legislation to close the loopholes in the border and also build a wall. For everybody's information here, the only one that can deport illegal aliens is the federal government, ICE. Okay, so I just want to make sure that's straight. I worked on the border training Border Patrol, training SWAT teams as a Green Beret and as a part of the mission of JTF 6. I've been there, I understand how they get through, I understand how to train, I understand what the border agents are going through, so whoever asked that question, I totally get it. Been there, done that. It's very important that Congress closes the loopholes in our immigration process. If an illegal alien steps 1 inch into our land, the process now is you apprehend it, you put it into our system. And that's what we're getting the kids in cages stuff. They're living better than I did when I was a boy. I was living in a trench, right? But we're taking care of them. And it's a huge tax burden on us. We have to close those loopholes in our immigration process.
I think we have time for 1 or 2 more questions. Go ahead.
Good. Okay, so this is an audience question that was texted to me. All of you agreed that we need to look for Americans first to fill open jobs. To have Americans to fill jobs, you need to be creating Americans. With birth rates starting to fall below replacement level for more and more demographic groups in America, it's no wonder people claim there are no Americans to fill open jobs. Families don't even exist in the same way they used to in America. What will you do with our government to promote stronger American families?
To promote stronger American families, we need to bring and talk about, I think, religion. I don't mind talking about God and our values. Somebody asked me why on my Twitter page and why on the information that I send out, I list myself as a Christian. I think it's important for full transparency that you know who you're voting for, that you know where I get my values. I don't think that we should be shut down for talking about those values and for being proud of those values. I think as Americans, that's one of the things that we all hold dear. It's not forcing you to practice any particular religion, but it's also not forcing me from practicing any typical religion. I think we need to get God back in our lives. I think we need to hold our school boards accountable for making sure that our children are learning the values that are represented in District 24, and I would definitely go to Congress and reflect and represent all of those.
I think she made a great point. I mean, God needs to come back into our families because if God's not here, we're in big trouble. And we can see with Donald Trump as well. If God's with him, he's doing all this stuff with Israel, and we're prospering. And there's a lot of different problems we're seeing with the baby boomer generation and how it's changing. Immigration is one way to fix that problem, but legal immigration. We're getting the people to help fulfill those jobs. But we're also changing with technology. Technology is requiring us not to have as many people employed. So technology is filling the gap, immigration is filling the gap, but it's very important to invest in an American economy because that will allow for more jobs to be made so more people can have them, but also technology will fill the gaps where we do not have enough people. So there's so many different facets of it.
Yes, question, please.
I think I'm just going to summarize, but basically, Americans are not having babies as much, and it's not a pro-family world anymore, a pro-family culture. How can the government step in and make it more pro-family?
You can't. You cannot legislate behavior. And I'll tell you right now, you want families to grow, then we need to get out of this broken family mentality. You want to grow families, you need to grow by reality and not by some phantom thing in some book. I have a 12-year-old daughter. She goes to Holy Trinity Catholic School. Religion and faith are strong in my family, and I've been with her mother for over 20 years.
Right.
So if you want to have families, you need to elect families. And I am the prime example of a family that is still together, the family unit. You work on the family unit, you're going to get bigger families, generally speaking, but you cannot legislate behavior. Thank you.
Well, you cannot legislate behavior, but you can set examples. Showing family values, families staying together. I grew up in a Catholic church from 1st grade to 6th grade. My values were instilled in me very young. That's why I'm 100% pro-life. And the economy is what helps younger people, college-bound people, or high school people realize that I can have a family. A lot of college-bound people, when they say, I got to get out and I got a $45,000 school debt, or I got a $60,000 school debt, how can I afford to raise a family? the government can step in by not relieving the debt, but helping college students be able to go to college better, open them opportunities. But the number one thing that the government can help with colleges is take away funding for colleges. Do not allow Republican professors in there to kind of level out the playing field there. We have too many Democratic professors in there teaching our kids. So if we start setting example to colleges, having professors in there that are more liberal and spreading the family values, I think that'll help us.
Okay, so I'm a conservative and we all are a constitutional conservative. So I don't think the government should be doing anything whether to expand or tell us if we need to have more kids or less kids or whatever kids. That's not the government's issue. And I'm not saying this because I have no kids and now Dawn and I have to have a fight because he thinks that because I don't have kids I'm not qualified. This is bad. And I have 3 dogs. That's good. But anyway, I mean honestly I don't think it's the business of the government to get into however nice it is, however moral it is. The government is not the moral police and we should be believer of a small government should not get it. Thank you.
I get 5 seconds about what I was mentioning. First of all, I did not say that, so I didn't want to defend myself. What I said is you elect people who believe in families, you will get a family unit. I did not negate anybody on the stage with my answer. I just want to make sure that's very clear.
We allowed you that. We allowed you that. All right, candidates, we're going to move on to our lightning round questions now. So we'll need you to pick up your flippers. You have a yes and a no. All right, audience, this is going to be interesting because after all of those words that they just spoke in this round, our candidates can only say yes or no.
Yes, straight out here.
Okay.
So I will be asking you a series of questions and please flash yes or no, but then we'll go down the line and we'll ask you to audibly say yes or no as well because maybe someone can't see this far. So we'll always start with David and go down the line to say yes or no, just to make it easy. Okay.
And I don't think you'll need to hold up your thing with it. It's green and red too, so I think you'll be able to know, but hold it up high and.
Right, but I would like an audible yes or no after I ask the question too. All right, here we go. Do you believe a state should have the right to limit or ban abortion procedures?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Ban
abortion procedure? They should be able to ban it.
Or ban abortion procedures?
Yes, the state's right issue.
should the states have a right to limit or ban?
Let's do this one more time.
Thank you.
Do you believe a state should have the right to limit or ban abortion procedures?
And if that is true, the opposite would be true too, right?
Yes.
Listen,
I'm so
all
sorry.
you can do is say yes or no. Audience, do you need an audible yes or no as well, or can you see their flippers?
No, we can.
Okay. Vaccines. Some see them as essential. Others believe they carry dangerous side effects. Do you think a parent should be obligated to vaccinate their child?
Yeah, if you go to school,
That's it, yeah.
The U.S. government has the capability to conduct surveillance on its own citizens. In light of mass shootings and terrorism, some argue it's necessary to keep people safe. Should the government be able to gather information through whatever means necessary? Some think legalizing marijuana could stem the opioid crisis, while others believe it may further burden healthcare and the insurance system. Do you support the legalization of marijuana?
As a congressman.
Yes.
Correct.
State.
Oh, okay, yeah.
The last person to be executed by the U.S. government was in 2003. Is it time to abolish the federal death penalty? Do you support expanded rights for individuals who identify as transgender? Congress has the power to...
Oh, sorry, what was the question?
Here we go. Congress has the power to impeach judges that have overstepped constitutional boundaries. Would you draft or sign into law such a measure? Will you fund a bill to put the military on the border?
I can't see,
If necessary.
I can't see,
Not just to do it, but if
is
necessary.
hers red or green?
I've been there.
The sunny.
Well, great, she's great.
If you
Oh,
could hold
okay,
it up
I'm sorry.
high, I think some of the
Okay.
audience members are having trouble seeing your
Okay,
cards.
this way.
Hold
So
it straight.
raise them high and hold it up.
And straight.
Is that better?
Flush like a...
Okay,
She had it straight, but Julie couldn't read her.
okay. Are you willing to enforce immigration laws that lead to deportation? President Donald Trump has transformed the White House in many ways, one being his use of social media to communicate with the American people. Do you support the president's use of Twitter to communicate his message? Two of the last 4 presidents were elected to public office despite losing the popular vote. They were elected through the Electoral College, which is a key part of representative democracy. Do you think it's time to abolish the Electoral College? Have you read the U.S. Constitution in its entirety? Now recite it. Sorry. Should the current student loan system that often leaves students saddled with mounds of debt be restructured?
When you say restructured, help them pay back?
Like, in what way?
Well, they need to pay back, and that's the restructured.
What's the question?
That's for the next debate. All right, now we're to the very most difficult question of the night. This is going to take some serious brain power from all of you. Do you foresee a Trump 2020 victory? All right, okay, with that, we close our lightning round. Thank you very much. Thank you. All right, wait. We've got just a little bit more to go. Our candidates will now be allowed a closing statement, a 1-minute closing statement. We'll switch the order and begin with Beth Van Dyne.
Oh, the mic.
Oh, sorry.
Don't run back. That's killing me.
She's been running my whole life.
I know, but not here.
Is it on? I appreciate all of you coming out today. We all know the biggest thing that we can do to be able to help Republicans is to actually get out the vote. Every one of you in this room votes, but every one of you in this room has influence over other voters. We saw in this election in 2018, we just barely hung on to this. As Tarrant County goes, so goes Texas, so goes the country. You have to get out and vote. I'm asking you for your support. I've won 5 races. I've won 5 times. You don't get up one day and just decide that you're going to run for Congress. I want to be able to make sure that you've got somebody in there who is experienced, who's fought the hard fights, who's not only just done, who said what they're going to do, but actually has done what they say they're going to do. has proven themselves to the voters. I believe I'm that candidate, and I really look forward to being able to get your support and to be able to represent you in 2020.
The reason you would all vote for me is because I'm funding my own campaign, so that's more money in your pockets. That's the one thing. And I have more skin in the game, so that tells you how serious I am about this. I have been putting my time, my energy, my money into it, and also I'm not taking any big money, not that they're offering me, but even if so, actually two people did, and I said no, because I like freedom, and I don't want to be owned by anyone, and I don't want to owe anyone anything. So for these reasons, I think I'm the best candidate, and again, I want all of your votes, and if anyone do not want to vote for me, please tell me why, so that I can sit and talk to you. Thanks, bye.
I can tell you, I didn't wake up one morning and think I wanted to run for Congress. I can tell you that I looked at what was going on with our career politicians, and I am sick and tired of career politicians making money off the back of us people and becoming millionaires. I've dedicated to give back 50% of my congressional pay to the district and local charities. I will not take part of that. Because I believe that we have to put service back in the public service, period. I took an oath to defend this country. I took an oath with my life. And I'm taking an oath to represent you in Congress the way it should be, the way we should be represented. I came from nothing. I'm part of you. I want this district to thrive. I want to give back once more. God, Texas, and my country gave me so much. It would God would really put me in hell if I didn't get back from where I came from. So, thank you very much. Go to www.desi.com. I appreciate it, and look forward to meeting every one of you.
I'm the one candidate up here that actually gives a damn. That's why you should actually vote. And I'll tell you what, I can do it. I kicked the tires. I went out door to door, just like many precinct chair people up here have done. I am the only candidate that was vetted by you, the voters, before I was allowed on the ballot. I did not write a check to get on the ballot like the rest of the candidates did. I was petitioned onto the ballot. That should strike a nerve to every single person in here. It means that I am committed to the public, and the public is who allowed me to be placed on the ballot. So when I say I care, I do. I talked to more than 1,000 people. I've gone to more than 2,000 venues before I built a platform and before I was allowed on the ballot. You may discover more about me at jeremylitterman.vote. www.jeremylitterman.vote, and I will fight for every single person in here, period.
Hey guys, y'all made it through the night. Now we're going to watch the presidential statement. It's going to be beautiful. I believe y'all are here in Grapevine at Flips. I have to watch it. Chill. Okay, it's going to be awesome. I'll be there. But this is actually a very important district. The Democrats are targeting, Nancy Pelosi is targeting this district as 1 out of 5 that she wants to turn blue. This is not just games anymore. This is serious. And if we keep electing the same people, we'll see the exact same thing that happened to Kenny Marchant. They can't group up the votes. They can't unite the party. They can't get them out to go and vote in November. It's time to vote for someone who's different. Someone that is running and has a ton of support. And I believe I am that candidate. As y'all will see outside when you're leaving, I have a beautiful sign right over there. And I'm the only candidate here, if we're saying that statement, who has Donald Trump on my signs. So it says Trump supporter. We already had a couple ruined, so kind of funny. But yeah, we'll put them everywhere. But thank y'all so much. Go to fagitforcongress.com to learn more. Thank y'all.
Thank you so much, everybody. That is our evening. Let's give another round of applause to our panelists.